All right, good afternoon, everyone. I am joined by our State's Attorney, Ivan Bates, and our Police Commissioner, Michael Harrison. We're here to provide an update on public safety as we're coming out of the Easter weekend and where we stand overall with violence in Baltimore first and most importantly, just so that all of Baltimore knows, as a reminder, we are seeing progress in our city. As of today, we are seeing a 19% decrease in both homicides and non-fatal shootings year over year, a 10% reduction in overall violent crime, and an over 30% reduction in carjacking. That is real progress that we are making in the city of Baltimore. But we have a lot of work to do, and we will not backslide. And that's why we're enhancing and deepening that focus and that partnership. The loss of one life in our city is one too many, especially when we're seeing this trend of young people who are the ones that are losing their lives or becoming victims of gun violence over minuscule, basic human conflict. These simple, senseless acts of violence in our city have to stop. The ease of access to guns must be addressed, not just here in Baltimore, but in our country. And specifically, I wanted to call out ghost guns. And I say that because this year alone, we have recovered 69 ghost guns. Of course, for those who may need a reminder, ghost guns are built after being bought online in parts and shipped to the purchaser. Again, this is why, as a city, we are suing Polymer, the nation's largest ghost gun manufacturer, because they are purposely skirting the common sense gun laws that we have here in Maryland that are in place to keep us safe, to keep weapons out of the hands of the people that shouldn't have them, people that are prohibited, like young people who are getting these ghost guns in record numbers, and to protect the rights of those who believe and practice what we call sensible gun ownership. In addition, this year, we've already recovered and traced 39 guns to an origin within the state of Maryland. However, we have traced and recovered 101 weapons that have an origin outside of our state, with Virginia coming in as number one with 24, 15 from the state of Georgia, and Pennsylvania, South Carolina, and Ohio all coming in with 6 respectively. That again shows that this is about a complete and total system of violence and access to guns that is happening from not just within the lines of Baltimore City. We have and we will continue to focus on every aspect and every person that plays a part into the flow of guns into our city and plays a part in gun violence. That means those who are caught on the street using a gun or the intention to use a gun will be arrested, and we will turn them over to our state's attorney. Those who traffic them into our city will be arrested, and we will turn them over to our state's attorney. And those companies and organizations who are aiding and abetting and allowing that flow to continue, we're going to be coming after you too, because no one that shouldn't have a gun shouldn't have it, especially young people on the streets of our city. And if you are an adult in any way involved in putting the guns in the hands of a young person, we're going to hold you accountable too. When we're seeing the things that we're seeing with our young people, and again, I want to take a moment to thank the police officers and our city staff who were working diligently and hard this weekend for that deployment, who were there making gun arrests, who were there rendering aid to our young people, who were there breaking up fights and making arrests on those for the great work that they did, not just this weekend, but they've been doing each and every day. I want to thank the women and men of Safe Streets who have mediated over 439 incidents in the city of Baltimore. But we are now going to be enhancing our efforts in the plan that we already have been putting into place and seeing progress with this city to make sure that we're keeping our young people safe as we move into the summer. That means, as you heard me say last night, standing up our youth engagement centers and instituting or reinstituting a citywide curfew. But I want to be clear about a few things about that. Instituting a curfew or bringing Baltimore's curfew back is about providing our young people with resources and ensuring that they have a safe space during the summer months. But my summer safety strategy is about more than the curfew. This summer, we will make sure again that our young people have that safe, positive activities to engage in like we did last summer. We know that we're going to have summer camp. We're going to have that like we had our spring break camps this spring break, and opportunities, of course, for 7,000 young people to earn money with a youth work job. We will employ a three-pronged approach, making sure that we're deploying appropriate and coordinated resources throughout the city, including traditional law enforcement and non-traditional assets like those offered at Downtown Partnership and community-based organizations to conduct outreach and mitigate the need for enforcement in the first place. Establishing our youth connection centers through the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, using lessons learned from the past to reconnect our young people who we see are in violation of our curfew. Those centers will open, as they always have, historically in Baltimore, Memorial Day weekend. We'll also be creating summer engagement opportunities through the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success to give young people safe events that they actually want to participate in. We will do our part to make sure that we protect our young people. But we need not just our community-based organizations and professionals, everyone to work with the young people this summer. But we also, this is again a message out to families who have young people. We need you too. I should not be talking to 10 and 11-year-olds on Pratt Street after a shooting happened in Baltimore City where young people have been shot and they don't know where their parent is. That happened last night. We can't be a city, we won't be a city where we allow that to happen. That's why we need these centers. That's the type of young people that I remember as a staffer running the center interacting with, who said, I came here on my own because I wanted to eat. I haven't seen my parent in 2 and 3 days. So for those who are thinking this is solely about snatching young people off the streets and putting them in the room, no, this is about making sure that we know what is going on with those young people, because it is not normal or okay for young people that young to be outside that late at night by themselves, miles and miles and miles away from home. And with that, I'll turn it over to our police commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good afternoon. Over the holiday weekend, Baltimore experienced several incidents of violent crime while also having a robust deployment of officers and law enforcement partners, and also while handling multiple large-scale events. Our officers responded to 7 shooting incidents with 4 fatalities and 5 non-fatal shooting victims. The home opener at Oriole Park, Camden Yards, took place without incident, despite having the largest attendance since 2018 with over 45,000 fans. The grand opening of CFG Bank Arena and concerts all weekend long, including a sold-out 14,000-person Bruce Springsteen concert on Friday night, also took place without incident. Additionally, the Under Armour Soul of the City 10K race took place Saturday in Harbor Point with no incident, requiring more than 100 officers to secure it from start to finish. In that same time frame, officers made 1 attempted murder arrest, 4 robbery arrests, 12 handgun violation arrests, and 12 narcotics arrests. As mentioned yesterday, officers were conducting crowd control in the 400 block of East Pratt Street. There were more than 30 officers and law enforcement partners in the downtown area, to include the MTA, the MDTA, and school police. With more than 250 youth in the area, officers were able to make an arrest for fighting while following a fight that broke out among several young people. A short time later, while escorting that arrested subject away from the 400 block, multiple shots were fired by an unidentified suspect with officers less than 25 feet away. Officers immediately canvassed the location and located a 14-year-old male and a 16-year-old male, both suffering from non-life-threatening gunshot wounds. Investigators later arrested 2 juveniles yesterday, one 16-year-old and one 17-year-old. Last night, as information was coming in, we were pursuing every possible lead that either of these suspects could be involved in the shooting. Through our investigative process, we now know that the 17-year-old found in the police garage on a dirt bike did not have a weapon as previously believed. The 16-year-old found at Pratt and Light Street did have a polymer 80 ghost gun as reported last night. Neither of the arrested suspects have been confirmed as persons of interest or suspect in the actual shooting. This investigation is still very active and ongoing, so we're asking anyone with any information about who committed this shooting to call detectives right away, or you can do it anonymously by calling 1-866-7-LOCK-UP. We're working closely with our state's attorney's office and all of our partners, both law enforcement and community. We are once again talking about juveniles being potential suspects and victims of violent crime. All of us here are working in partnership to look at how we combat youth violence, to include addressing youth interactions, guns in the hands of other young people, more involvement from parents, faith leaders, business leaders, and community leaders. And now at this time, I'll turn it over to our state's attorney.
Good afternoon. I'd like to thank Mayor Scott, Commissioner Harrison, for the continued partnership and willingness to keep the lines of communication open between our offices, the three agencies, as we work together to combat the violence that is plaguing our communities and our young people. The chaos that occurred downtown last night is totally unacceptable and deeply disturbing when we consider the many young lives that were put at risk, including the 2 teenagers that were shot. My prosecutors will hold all individuals accountable. And one of the things we're focused on specifically is these guns, the illegal handguns. We hear about them time and time again. We're also very focused on the young people, or people in general, pulling the trigger pullers of these illegal handguns. Illegal offenders must be held accountable. That is the only way we'll begin to see the change that we all want in Baltimore. Now, the Maryland General Assembly has passed House Bill 824, which makes the maximum penalty for illegal gun possession up to 5 years in prison for offenders 21 years and over. We're one step closer to being able to ensure swift, certain, and serious consequences for the kinds of reckless actions that we have seen play out in our streets and in our neighborhoods. Just last week, we had an individual in court that had a second handgun charge. First time he'd been found guilty, was given probation. We filed the enhancements, my office did. We went to trial. That young person was found guilty and received a 10-year sentence to spend all but 5 years, excuse me. What we're saying is that we are not playing, we're serious when it comes to illegal handguns. Leave them at home. I want to take this opportunity to thank the leadership of the General Assembly, President Ferguson and Speaker Jones, and my sponsors, Senator Corey McCray and Delegate Conway, for their help in passing that bill. It's just one additional tool in the toolbox that we can use to try to hold individuals carrying and using illegal handguns accountable. I want to impress upon every person watching now that my prosecutors will do everything in their power to get violent offenders off our streets. If you have information about a crime, I implore you to come forward to help us make this city safer by sharing what we know with law enforcement and our office. Together, we can stop the bloodshed and make the city a safe place for all of our children grow up in. Thank you.
Questions?
Yes, we're gonna start right here, we're gonna make our way around, we'll start with Lily and then we'll.
Lily?
The shooting was at 9, and a curfew would occur at 10 p.m. if it was reinstated, and officers were feet away from the shooting. How would a curfew be an effective tool in preventing youth violence?
I think I'm going to say this very clearly again. None of us we never said that the curfew is about preventing that incident from happening or that it would have, right? But when you have an incident like you had last night, I think it causes all of us to think about violence and how people think about pulling triggers in a different way. If someone will pull a gun out 50 feet or less from a police officer and pull the trigger, then clearly it's not solely a police issue, right? That we have a deeper issue that we have to address, which you heard from myself and the state's attorney about how people are getting the guns and why we have to also put other things in place to figure out what is going on with people mentally, because someone doing that clearly isn't in their right mind. But more importantly, when you think about the curfew, I'll just give you some more examples of what we have had happen, right? There was a young man who came into the Youth Connection Center the last time that we had it. He was 10 years old. BP didn't pick him up. He just happened to be walking around East Baltimore and walked past Collington Square Rec Center, where we had the center at that time, and he walked in. And as he's talking to the youth connector who was to figure out what was going on with him, He opened up and said, I know that my mother's a prostitute. Imagine knowing that at 10 years old and what that would mean for him. So we started to work with that young man. Guess what happened to his mom a few weeks later? She gets shot. But because we knew him, we were able to then work with that family. These young people come into that. It is not normal, and it shouldn't be normal for 10, 11, 12, or I've seen them as young as 4, 5, and 6 years old, be out at 1 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock. It's bad enough when it's that late. And they're just out there, and they say, what were you doing? Well, someone sent me to the store to get cigarettes. Well, what were you doing? I was just walking. I'm hungry. I haven't eaten in 2 days. That's the kind of thing. And if we don't have that, if we don't have a place where we come and bring them in, we don't know that. This is not just about figuring out, we're going to keep them safe because they're going to be off the street, right? And that's also going to be why we're going to be having organized events ourselves so that we can be there to push and channel that energy, because we know teenagers specifically have less places to go because folks have decided that the one place that teenagers used to gather, teenagers can no longer gather without their parents, right? So they can't go to malls anymore. We're going to create new versions of that, just like we did last year with Be More Lit. This is about making sure that we're doing everything to protect our young people. Never have I said and never will I say that curfew and curfew alone is about saving young people or preventing specific acts of violence. It's about another tool in keeping our young people safe and finding out what we need to do to help those young people who are just clearly unsupervised and in many cases unsupported. And let me be also very frank that these young people come from all over, right? They're not just kids that are coming from East and West Baltimore. I spoke to young people last night who were from Owens Mills, right? This is about us doing everything in our power to keep our young people safe.
Can you give me some specifics about this curfew? What are the hours? What does it entail? And when they're picked up, where will they go?
So, yeah. So, Lisa, I think that, this is funny, ironic question coming from you. So you'll remember back in 2014, when I was a council person, I updated the city's curfew law that we've had since I was a little kid in the 90s, right? So right now, if you're, as I said last night, if you're under the age of 14, you have one curfew. If you're a little bit above, you have another. In the summertime, those hours extend, right? So if you're the older 14 to 17, you can be out until 11. If you're under that, you can be out until 10. Right now, those are at 9 p.m. and 10 p.m. We'll be announcing exactly where the centers will be as we roll out the centers, but more than likely, they will be at rec centers again.
But this curfew law has been on the books for
Yes.
decades.
Not decades.
Okay, since 2014?
It's the update, yes.
Okay, so why hasn't it been enforced?
Well, it has. As I know it's been enforced because as a staffer, I ran the curfew center. Of course, when I assumed office, of course, we were in the middle of a pandemic, and we know we couldn't do the things that we normally do about gathering folks in those kind of situations the way that we would do. Now that we're out of that, we're going to go back to doing things that we know had a deep impact.
When does the curfew start?
We're kicking off the curfew centers Memorial Day weekend.
Rebecca?
Thank you.
Oh.
Oh, okay. Me first and then her, or?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, I guess I was similarly confused. How is the curfew being enforced, especially if parents?
Well,
are-
yeah,
or
what
parents
we'll
are-
do for everybody is send you guys out to the law, how it is, and a reminder of how it's done. It's not a new thing for Baltimore. I think that your viewers will know exactly how it's enforced because they probably had it happen to them like we
But
did as
that's
kids.
not gonna happen like tonight, tomorrow?
So let me be very clear. The centers themselves start in the summertime. That's a Baltimore tradition at this point. We've always had, we used to call them curfew centers. We evolved to calling them youth connection centers after the law change in 2014. The police department itself can always, and school police, everyone, curfew can be enforced anytime, at all times, throughout the daytime. If they're not in school, obviously, they get taken back to school, all of that. That will continue and keep going on. But we're talking about specifically around summertime and summertime curfew enforcement when we talk about the youth connection centers themselves.
Brittany?
Okay, I just have two questions. So I know the reform ordinance is what you're referring to, that's been on the books for some time. So is it gonna be similar to that in terms of?
It'll be exactly like that. We'll follow the law to the T. And thank you, Brittany, for asking and bringing that up, because this, again, is not about a punitive nature, right? Those in the press that will remember, the reason why I changed the law was from my experiences, because what would happen to a young person, if we found a young person one night, right, and then they came back to the center the next night, then what would happen is that we would file criminal charges or maybe go and arrest the parent. Well, if you do that, where exactly do you think the kid's going to be on the third night? They're going to be back out on the street, right? So we evolved ourselves into having it that first we offer up services for young people and their families, and we want them to take us up on that. And if they don't, they get to a certain point, then it gets turned over to the court, and the court decides what happens.
So do we have the staffing and capacity like in Parks and Rec and then?
It won't just be Parks and Recs. It'll be a multifaceted, but yes, we have the staffing, and I know that I'll be volunteer to work it myself this summer too.
Rebecca?
So to be clear,
yes,
who will
ma'am.
be doing the enforcement? Is it going to be police officers? And then again, are they going to be taking them to the rec centers at all hours, or will they be taking them home?
So I won't get into the details of when we would take a young person home. BPD will be doing the enforcement. Law enforcement is the only ones that actually can do the enforcement portion. When we determine where the centers are, that's where they'll be taking them. But again, you don't have to. Young people can walk in. We get a lot of walk-ins too from young people. And then they will go through a myriad of services to figure out what's going on with the young people. And then we'll wait for someone to come pick them up.
But what about the teens that are, repeatedly breaking curfew? They're not listening to police officers. They're finding them out there time and time again. Will they be fined? You're saying that no.
So I guess you should look at the law again. The law talks about you can't fine a kid, right? So that it will be on the parent. So how the law works, right? If you get caught on curfew, you have to go through these and take these services. If you don't, if you get caught multiple times, then there's fines and things that are levied by the opportunity to be levied by the court. But those things are set in the law, and we'll be following the law to the T.
We're gonna end here, Candace, with the banner.
Do you have any priority areas that are going to focus on for the enforcement, or will it be kind of just?
Everywhere is a priority because our young people are mobile. Young people are mobile, right? If we see a group of young people who just happen to be walking in Drew Hill Park at 1 o'clock in the morning, if they're in the harbor, if they're in West Baltimore, does not matter. We've historically done it all over in all 9 police districts, and we're going to do that again.
Any other thing?
Thank you.
So if you just sit here, tonight, if you're out, and you're certainly, if you're out after 9,
Lisa, thank you. Thank you, all for questions. Thank you, appreciate you.
we just want to be clear in our reporting.
Then they can take them the same way they always have, Lisa. Yes, ma'am.